One of my favorite breads is Walter Sand's basic sandwich bread. It's really simple. There's not a lot of ingredients that you have to worry about having
Pretty
on
much
hand.
in your pantry already.
Exactly. Yeah. And our recipe says we can use 5.5 to 6 cups of flour. We have 3 cups of all-purpose flour in the bowl. I'm going to add a scant tablespoon of instant yeast and then 2 tablespoons of sugar. The sugar is going to give us a little bit of sweetness, but it's also going to really be a nice yeast food. So
could you replace it with honey or some other sweetener?
You could substitute honey, you could substitute maple syrup, you can substitute molasses, any sort of a sweetener that you like would work, definitely. I'm going to add to that 2 tablespoons of butter. And what I like to do is just sort of cut up the butter a little bit. This is room temperature butter, so it's nice and soft. And don't worry if you can see the chunks, it's not a big deal. All right. Okay, salt's in. The next thing I'm going to add is a 1/2 cup of milk powder. And milk powder, along with the butter, is going to provide richness and flavor.
And what if you don't have milk powder?
You could certainly use fresh milk to make the recipe. So I'm going to blend this all together now that all the dry ingredients are in the bowl.
And what is this little magic wand tool you're using?
I love this. This is called a Danish dough whisk. And it's a great tool for mixing and kneading because it's very open. With a spoon, you have a lot of resistance, so it can be hard for you to mix doughs and batters that are heavy, but this makes it pretty easy for you. Okay, so I have 3 cups of flour in the bowl so far, and my recipe says I can use 5.5 to 6. So I still have a lot more flour to add, but first I want to get some water in here. Anything over 115 or 120 degrees Fahrenheit is really going to start to kill the yeast, so you want to be careful to get water comfortable to the touch. Go ahead and feel that. I'm going to pour 2 cups of that nice, comfortable water into the flour mixture. So remember, I've got 3 cups of flour in the bowl, but my recipe says I can use 5.5 to 6. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of humidity in the air, and that can get into your flour just sitting in your flour bag in your pantry. Or it can dry out if it's very dry, like if you have your heat on or the wood stove going in the winter. So we're not really sure yet which it's going to be. So this is really just a range for us, the 5.5 to 6. So I'm going to add my flour really slowly at this point to get to what we call the shaggy mass stage. And that's when I'll start kneading the dough. But if you get too much flour in, you're going to have a really tough, dry dough. And you don't want that. You want it to be soft and smooth.
So you kind of start big and then tail it back a little bit to get less and less.
Yeah. We're going to add another cup, and I'll have you stir this for me.
Okay. With my magic wand Danish dough whisk tool.
We'll try to keep track of how many cups of flour we have in the bowl too, right? Definitely not ready to knead, right?
Right.
I wouldn't want to knead that.
No.
So let's sprinkle in another 1/2 cup here. You can see it's starting to change. Starting to be a little bit more of a ball, holding together a little bit more, but still really sticky, don't you think?
Yeah.
So let's sprinkle
definitely
a little
getting
more.
closer to that shaggy mass.
Yes,
stage.
definitely. So there's almost the rest of cup 5. I'm going to measure out cup 6. We'll see where we stand, but I'm not going to add it yet. Ooh, wow, look at that. Do you see how now it's actually starting to cling to the dough whisk?
Yep.
See the kind of stretchiness that's forming there? Mm-hmm. That's telling you that you've got some good gluten development starting in that bowl. And we're going to knead it and finish it off and really get it developed. I think we're almost to the shaggy mass stage, but I'm going to add just a little bit more flour because it's still a little moist here. And if you touch the dough, it kind of sticks to your fingers. Mm-hmm. We're just going to sprinkle maybe about a 1/4 cup into the bowl. And you're doing a really good job mixing it.
It's definitely starting to form that gluten.
Isn't that something? It's really better to err on the side of using less flour than too much flour at this point, because we're going to be kneading this on the bench and we can always get a little bit more flour into it, but we can't pull it out. It is starting to hold together into a ball, and you can almost pick it up. Try picking it up all in one piece.
Ooh.
It's still kind of powdery, right?
Yeah.
I think we're ready to go.